YouTubers, welcome back to Backyard Astronomy. Today we're going to discuss another object involving our telescope that we're going to purchase, or if you've already bought one, it's the tripod and the mount. There is a very important reason why you would want a good solid mount for your telescope. Any vibration that goes into your telescope will be amplified by your eyepiece. Now that could be a vibration from you touching it, or from the ground, or even the wind blowing. Just a small breeze will cause your telescope to move if you don't have a very solid and stable mount. What you're going to find in some telescopes that you buy at a department store is going to be what is called an azimuth mount. Now, if you remember, this telescope somewhere around 1963 or 64, very common mount in those days. This mount is called an azimuth mount. Now what it does is it mounts into the tripod with one single hole, and the motion for it is up and down and left and right, or north and south, east and west. That's it. Not very good for astronomy. It's probably good for terrestrial viewing, such as bird watching, looking at well, like birds and butterflies or whatever, deer in the woods. But when it comes to astronomy at night, this is not very good. So you need to stay away from this. Okay, as I told you, the azimuth mount is not good for any telescope. Now, they were very popular back in the 60s, and they're still popular today whenever you go to an apartment store, a department store, and buy a telescope. Their game is to sell you a telescope. Now, the one that you're looking at right now is called an equatorial mount. Very common on good telescopes, and it's also what you want. Now, this is kind of hefty. This one's done in the 1980s, but today they still have equatorial mounts, and a lot better than they were in those days. This particular mount will allow you to do motions which I'll show you. Now, don't pay any mind to the telescope itself. These mounts that we're talking about are available on any telescope. It doesn't matter whether it's a refractor, a reflector, or an SET. You can still get them on all telescopes. Now, looking at the motion of this one, this is an equatorial, like I told you. It has two axes, just like the other telescope, except there's something different about this one. You'll notice right here is a north leg. And if you'll see, this angle right here is lined up with the North Pole. It's parallel to the Earth's axis at your location. Now what this allows you to do is, if you was to unlock each one, you see that starting to move right there? All of the axes. Now this, it allowed the telescope to move this way, allow it to move this way. You can do all of these. And they're controlled by a weight. It's balanced. This is a very sturdy mount. It is a wooden mount, but it's very sturdy. What you'll be wanting to look at is a mount that's sturdy, but is equatorial. You want to have a polar axis, and you want to have your two axes to operate for declination and right accession. That's what that's called. We will discuss that in another film. But this is the type of mount that you'll be wanting. And it's a very good mount. It's available for all telescopes. And that's what I'll be looking for. Okay, we're looking at another mount. This particular one is for my SET. This is a Smith's Cassegrain scope. And they're usually mounted. Now you can get them on the equatorial mount, or you can get them in a fork mount. And that's what this is. This is a fork mount, and it's mounted equatorially. If you bought this scope with the fork mount, it usually comes with just a tripod. You have to have another part of the mount that you have to buy separate. It's called a wedge. You have to buy a wedge in order to give you remember that axis we want parallel to the Earth's axis? That's what this is for. Okay, we'll pitch this telescope up, and then our axis will be right along this way here. Now, the way this works, this is an equatorial, and you're usually going to find these on a Smith's casting grain. It will allow the scope to do as you see here. And I'll be step around to the other side. And on this side, it will allow your scope to go up and down. Now, with that moving this way, you have same effect as you have with that equatorial map we just looked at. That's the purpose of it. This particular type of mount is usually mounted on a pedestal, basically in an observatory situation, a backyard observatory. Both this mount and the equatorial mount are considered to be equatorial, and that's the best that you can do. They're the best you can get. The mount that we looked at earlier, the azimuth mount, you need to stay away from. Okay, this is what you've been waiting for, I guess, is my suggestion as to what you would like to have. Now, I can't pick your telescope for you. You need to decide what it is you really want to do with it. And I understand you're a beginner and you don't know what you want to do with it, but you got some idea. The best thing to do for beginners is to look at maybe a small refractor or reflector. Now, here's some things you need to take in consideration. I want to look at the type of scope that I want. That's what we just talked about. You need to pick out what type you want, what kind of eyepieces come with it. And when you talk about eyepieces now, remember, we want 1¼ inch size, and we're probably going to get maybe either 1 or 2 eyepieces are going to come with it. Usually somewhere around 25 millimeter or 26 millimeter is going to be your low power, and either a 9 or 12 is going to be your high power. It all depends on the manufacturer, what they supply you with. And you might want to get a ball load. Usually a ball load is going to come with them if you have 2 eyepieces. They usually sometimes consider putting in a ball load with you. Next thing you want to look at is the size of the scope. How big does it need to be? What am I going to do with it? How am I going to move it around? Remember, you're not going to leave this outdoors sitting up all the time. You've got to carry this thing outdoors. So the size is going to matter. The bigger the scope, the heavier it's going to be. And we haven't even put a mount on it yet, or a tripod. The next thing you'll be looking at is, can I move it easily? That's a tripod. Can I move it around easily? What is it going to involve in setting it up? All these things you need to consider. And there is a learning curve with some things. I will stipulate right now that for a beginner, I would not go near a Smith casting grain or any kind of object. Those tend to be very pricey, and there is a learning curve. Now, there are some stories that you tell about where they find everything for you and all this. That's true, but only after you get them set up. Okay? So you want to look at this type of scope. Decide whether you want a reflector or refractor. And a refractor, I'd look at somewhere between 80 and 90 millimeter. That's going to give you 3 or a little bit over 3 inches. Anything over that's going to be around 4 inch, and it's going to become very expensive. Another scope would be, like we talked about, a reflector. I would say somewhere in the neighborhood between 4 inch and 6 inch is what I would go for. Very common ones will be 4.5 and 5 inch. Those are very good scopes. Like I said, let's go near a cathode object right here. A mount, you want to look at equatorial. Pure and simple equatorial. Now, we've covered a lot of things. Let's see, is there anything else I want? Yes, as far as picking out particular scope for you, brand name wise, I particularly like Meade, Celestron, and Orion. Don't forget Orion. Let's back up here now. You can look at magazines. You can look online. Doesn't cost you a thing to look online. And magazines, I suggest a couple. One's called Astronomy, and the other is called Sky and Telescope. Great for information. They come out monthly, both of them do. And inside those books is telescopes galore and accessories. Very good choice of information. Your next one is Orion. Orion you can look at on the internet. They carry a lot of telescopes. They carry their own telescopes, and they carry a lot of equipment. Very good. Now, for as far as beginner equipment, it's like I said, 80 to 90 millimeter for refractor and 4 to 6 inch for a reflector. Great scopes. Equatorial mounted. You're looking at, say, 4.5 inch reflector to a 5 or maybe 6 inch. You're looking at somewhere between $2 and maybe $299, about $300. Now, those don't have electronic drives, but they're manual drives like I showed you on the red one. They have knobs that you turn. Very good beginner scopes. Refractors, same way. You can get both Meade, Celestron, Orion, all covered. Those will be my suggestions. Remember now, you are picking your first telescope, or you're picking your child's first telescope. Neither one of you know exactly what you want really to do with it. The thing to remember is have fun with it and learn with it. You don't need a telescope that's like a go-to and finds everything for you. The minute the go-to quits or your battery runs out, you're lost. You need to find your way around the sky yourself. And it's more fun to be able to set up your scope and look and find something that you are looking for and see it for the first time. I will never forget the first time I saw Saturn's rings. It took me years to find that. And when I finally found it, I continued to look at it. And Jupiter, same way. You'll find 4 of the moons of Jupiter, and I spent many a night trying to watch them go around that planet. Awesome. With a go-to scope, you miss all that fun. Go-to scope will do everything for you. You need to learn it. And the thing to do is go back to our first series and learn to stargaze. Start there. That's a good way to start. Remember, whatever you do, you can learn later. But have fun now. Enjoy the scope. Enjoy looking at the sky. Who knows? You might decide you want to buy a big SCT. You might want to build an observatory. But that's going to come later. You need to learn a little now. I think that's going to conclude our series on telescopes. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, click like down there. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe to my channel. And once again, if you have any comments or suggestions, leave them below. Scan down a little ways and you'll find the comment section and leave me comments. I will get back with you. Until next time, this is Stan Bone in Dreamworld Observatory, and this is Backyard Astronomy. Keep looking up.